Hello, I'm Dr. Jeanette Raymond, psychologist, psychotherapist, and relationship expert, here to talk to you about how trying to be a good person all the time, pleasing people, being amenable, doing everything for them first, is not really the best thing for you because you end up with a burden of trying to be perfect. So this is a really interesting thing to think about. Imagine when you're little, you want to be a good kid, you want to be a good boy and a good girl because mommy and daddy will like you, they'll praise you, they'll think you're smart, they'll pick you up and play with you, hug you, kiss you, want you, show you off, and so on. And that might be true, but the real issue is you're aching for something because you're feeling bad inside. You feel like you're messy, you're yucky, you're not good enough, and so you're trying to get to be good, to be good, to be good, to be wanted, to be loved, to be precious, to be adored, to be the star of the show, and so on, just so you can feel like you matter, that your life has some importance and relevance in your family and with your loved ones. But in my work, I find that most people who come and see me feel very bitter and literally heartbroken that all the ways in which they've tried to be good, they always do the right thing, they're punctual, they don't take advantage of people, they're conscientious, they work hard, they don't tell lies, they don't break the mold, they follow the rules so carefully, and yet they're not the ones who get rewarded. They're not the ones who get picked to go and play games, go to the dance, go out, be a friend, join this group or that group. They're not the ones that are wanted and cherished. They may be admired for being good, but they're not attractive. There's no spark there. And so I want to tell you about Ian, the character in my book, who um, is part of my experience and as a therapist. He tried to be good all his life, the good boy, to please everybody, to make himself amenable, helpful, available, interested in them, putting himself last, and so on. And all that happened was, first he'd get disappointed, and then he'd get really, really angry because he didn't get any reward. People, you know, he didn't get promoted because he was good. He didn't get special favors when he was good. He didn't get celebrated if he was good and a good person. But he found that being angry made him feel strong and powerful. So that made him feel righteous and superior and better. And so he was going to stick to being good. He was going to turn himself into a martyr because that meant he was a good slave to everybody. He took care of everybody, no matter how badly they treated him. But he was longing for loved ones to see him and rescue him. So part of being a good boy or a good girl is this fantasy that you're going to come and be rescued, saved, because you're so good that suddenly people will see how much you're worth. They'll feel guilty that they didn't see it before. They'll beg your pardon. They'll beg your forgiveness. They won't be able to lose you. And you have fantasies of being run over by a car or disappearing. And then they'll know how much you were worth to them. Then they'll really miss you. So part of being good and this martyr complex is really masochistic because you are hurting yourself. And that's what Ian in my book did. He hurt himself so much that he was physically ill, worn out, depleted, had sleep problems, had difficulties with his attention and his irritability. But it was all in an endeavor that he didn't want to take care of himself. That's what being good is about. That if you're good, somebody else will take care of you. your mom, your dad, your wife, your sibling, your children, your colleagues, your boss, whoever. And it took him many, many years of therapy with me to realize that the only person who can make himself feel worthwhile was himself. And that's what we did in our work together for between 10 and 12 years. And he realized that being the martyr, while it made him feel good that he was suffering and somebody was going to come and rescue him and take care of him, that fantasy made him feel strong and so on. In the end, he realized that it was his go-to place because he'd had it for so long. And it actually wasn't working. All it created was more disharmony in his relationships. But in his work with me, he realized that, and he began to take himself seriously and not to hurt himself by being a masochist, because it was only through the masochism that he felt he was worth other people taking care of him because he was so badly hurt, and he was doing it for them. He was hurting himself for them. So think about what it means to you to be good, to be perfect. That's why he had this burden of being perfect. You know, he was in a ball and chain with a halo around his neck because he felt so good, but it was a burden. He had to take care of everybody else and not for him. And in the end, it didn't work. And he had to learn to value himself. And then people started to value him. And that's kind of the lesson. And you can read all about his journey, about the burden to be perfect, in my book, Ian, From Feeling Unwanted to Wanting to Feel, The Burden of Being Perfect. See you next time.